Good evening. The images you are about to see on live stream are disturbing. In a horrific incident in western UP's Bulandshahr district, a woman was tied to a tree and beaten unconscious by her husband, allegedly on the orders of a local panchayat. Now, this panchayat ordered the beating of this woman earlier this month because she was suspected of having an affair. In this video that has been shot on a mobile phone, the woman can be seen crying in pain after being repeatedly hit with a rubber cycle tire tube. You can see over there's a sizable crowd that has gathered, mostly men, and they've gathered around and they're watching. Not one person makes an effort to intervene. In fact, you can even hear some of them laughing and berating this woman. In all of this, just 60 kilometers from the national capital. Now, 3 people, including the husband, have been arrested by the police after a complaint was registered on Wednesday.
इस पंचायत पे आयोजित करने वाले पूर्व प्रधान और उसकी पिटाई करने वाले उसके पति के साथ साथ 6 अन्य लोगों के विरुद्ध और लगभग 20-25 लोगों के अज्ञात लोगों के विरुद्ध अभियोग पंजीकृत किया गया। इसमें जो पूर्व प्रधान है, उनका बेटा और पीटने वाला पति, इन सब की गिरफ्तारी कर ली गई है। पुलिस छानबीन कर रही है। वीडियो में जो भी लोग हैं उनको चिन्हित करके सुसंगत धाराओं में उनको जेल भेजा जाएगा और विधिक कार्रवाई पूरी की जाएगी।
Now, what would you have done if you were in that crowd? Are we a nation of bystanders? How is it possible that a woman is so brutally beaten in broad daylight and everybody just stands by watching? Why is it that no one intervened? Why do you think incidents like this happen all over our country and we as Indians just don't speak up? Tweet us your comments. This is a show where we want to hear from you, our viewers. We have our phone lines ready. We're waiting. If you want to call in, we'd speak with you right now live. You can record your video queries and send it across to us, and you can WhatsApp it to us. The numbers on your screens right now. I beg your pardon. First and foremost, I want to go across to Mr. Valerian Santos. He's the father of Keenan Santos, and everybody knows the story of what happened to young Keenan. He was out with a friend. They were out in Mumbai. They were harassed by a group of men, and Keenan stepped forward to protect this woman, and he paid a very heavy price. He paid for his life. Mr. Santos, thank you so much. You've for joining us again, taking our time. We're reliving these memories, forcing you to go through it all over and over again. When the Keenan Santos case occurred, when the murder took place, there was shock all over India. One would think that one would hope lessons would be learned, but it seems like nothing changes. You have clearly taught your son that you have to stand up when you see wrong. You must stand up in the face of injustice. But do you feel alone in India?
Hello.
Mr. Santos, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello. I'm losing little audio. Hello.
Mr. Santos, I wanted to ask you what your initial reaction is when you see this video coming through now.
It is making my blood boil, you know. I cannot even tell this people, these bystanders who I am watching now in front of the TV, in front of me on TV. I cannot even tell them where the angles, because women are more brave now than these fools. These are all fools. And one thing is there that I don't know why they are these cowards. If they cannot help somebody, why do they stand like that and see? It was the same case when my son was brutally murdered, and they did not even help the girls after the incident. So I mean, it is really shocking. It is shocking that humanity has gone to so low that nobody wants to step forward and help. But they want to stand and see the tamasha. That is the worst thing that irritates me. And it gives me sleepless nights to think how these people can go home and have a good night's sleep after seeing all this that is going on. They should have stepped in and hammered the daylight out of that person who's hammering that lady.
And I think sometimes, sir, all it takes is one person. One person steps forward, then everybody else is emboldened. But why does that one person not step forward? That's what we're trying to understand about ourselves as we do some introspection about ourselves as a nation. Now, this is not unusual.
I have been in this thing. I've gone forward to help, and then I have seen that the public also starts joining us. But that one person has to be there. It is like, who will build a cat? But why not all these people get together? Anywhere you see something like that happening, if a crowd starts giving this people back, they will not be sing. They form groups to fight for Valentine's Day. They form groups to fight for this and that, which is in no way harmful to humanity. But when something is bad is happening to humanity, then they don't want to come forward. These are cowards.
These are cowards, but words well spoken, and no one can disregard that coming from a man like you who has lost his son, who taught his son to stand up for what's right and paid a heavy price to pay for it. And it's not unusual. We see this around India. Road accidents. Mr. Santos just mentioned this. So many cases you see of victims lying on the road, grievously injured. They're bleeding. They're pleading for help. But instead of rushing them to a hospital, you'll see a crowd of bystanders and they'll rush forward. Mr. Santos, you mentioned people stand by to watch, but what we're seeing now, reflective of the age and the times that we live in, bystanders will rush forward to shoot pictures and videos on their phones and perhaps even selfies. That is the new world we're living in, and in many cases...
They all should be given Bharat Ratna or Coward Ka Ratna. One more Ratna should be made in India. And give all these people that. For being a coward and seeing some human being losing his life, whether it is road accident, whether it is murder, whether it is rape, or somebody is getting molested, or somebody is getting abused. I mean, what the hell is going on? And I think so it is high time some law is made even for this bystanders. We want everything from the government, but we don't want to help.
But the Supreme Court did last year pass a landmark ruling, Mr. Santos. The Supreme Court did pass a landmark ruling introducing a Good Samaritan directive which gives legal protection to bystanders who help road accident victims. But let's try and understand, is this enough?
I have said it many times that the Supreme Court has said it. I have been to police stations also, and I have told the police also that this so-and-so thing has happened now. This person has got to the hospital, not let these people go. Sometimes, no doubt the police does not follow to tattoo the rules and try to, frighten the person by saying that abhi aapko ye court mein aana padega and this and that. Don't just frighten the person. But even if the police is asking you to come to court and give witness, what is there to do that? What is there to spare your time for humanity and see that the guilty are punished?
All right, you're right, Mr. Santos. And in many cases, when you talk about road accidents, doctors say that if these victims had been brought to the hospital 20 minutes earlier, they could have been saved. They may have been hit by a car or a bus or a speeding, drunken teenager, but in the end, what seems to have killed them really is public apathy. So we're asking again, are we a nation of bystanders? Call us, send us your videos, tweet us, WhatsApp us your messages. We want to hear from you on this show. Are we living in times of social paradox? We're connected to the world, yet we're detached from our immediate environment. Or does the problem lie with our laws, which makes it very risky to extend help? It's time for some soul searching on this show. Let's go across to Karuna Nandi. She's a lawyer. She's here to take your questions, so you can send them in. She's willing to take them now. Karuna, first to you, what's your opinion? Why do Indians, I beg your pardon, particularly not help? Karuna, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, Karuna, as I was telling
I can hear you,
Mr. Santos, last year the Supreme Court passed a landmark ruling where they introduced this Good Samaritan directive, what was supposed to give legal protection to bystanders to help road accident victims. In your opinion, why is it that we're a country that needs these kinds of directives? Why is it that we don't come forward to help ourselves?
You know, I think the directive was a very important and useful order, and the reason is that some people were not helping other people on the street because there was a bit of a lack of clarity about whether the police could harass them or not, right? So, for example, I myself, this is a personal experience. I was, in a car going to, when I was very young, I was 19, and I was in a car going to college, and somebody was lying on the street, and there was a crowd of people, and nobody was actually helping him. So we put him in my car, and I drove him to hospital, and the police, the doctor said we're going, the people there said that we're going to do a medico legal case. He said, did you hit me? Just give me some money and I'll leave. And I said, I didn't hit you, I'm just going to drop you off at the hospital because you've had a head injury and you're bleeding, and they will treat you, or if you want to leave from the hospital, you can. So now the point is that, so I explained, I wasn't a lawyer then, but I explained the law to them and I left. But the point is that there was this lack of clarity. So I think an affirmative protection is something that really does help. I think it's a slightly separate problem here, Sarah. And the Supreme Court, as you know, has also passed a number of judgments saying things like that panchayats, and here the regular panchayat seems to have been acting like a panchayat. When they do illegal criminal activities, they have absolutely no protection, I think the problem is slightly different. The problem is the entitlement and the impunity that we see happens because these laws are not enforced on a regular basis, and we don't have the kind of swift, certain punishment in these kinds of cases that we need to see. It's not just, there's a tendency to sometimes just blame the police, but this is something that one has been saying for a long time. There are two things. One is that we have the lowest number of police, one of the lowest numbers of police per million population in the world. And we also have one of the lowest numbers of judges per population. So these institutions need to be strengthened. But if you don't interview people on the basis of what their feelings are about constitutional values like freedom of women, gender, then what you're going to do is you're only going to reinforce the kinds of patriarchies and the kinds of oppressions that already exist. So swift, certain punishment is something that needs to become a regular thing, and not just when videos go viral.